Hello, my name is David O'Brien. And I'm here for your success in the areas of purity. Hello, my name is David O'Brien. I am your purity doctor, and I'm glad to have you here again with me for another episode of the Purity Forum. I have an amazing topic to present to you today, and it is man's sexuality versus spirit. You know, Adam and Eve were the first two human beings, that's what we call them in English, but the first two humans ever created and put on the earth. They were put in the garden, and the way they were created was that God, the Creator, breathed breath into a clay vessel or body. The breath that He breathed is their spirit. The clay vessel is their physical body. It came from the earth, but the breath came from God. He created them, actually, and He made the body, and then He put them inside the body. So you got to know, to start off with, that all human beings are more than just their body. They also have a mind. When they were formed inside of, they were created, then they were put in the body that was formed. Their mind showed up, and all of a sudden they could think, look around, speak, and it says they became a living soul. So that was man. Now, man at that time, I'm talking about Adam, did not have any sexuality. He had a relationship with his Creator, that's what we call God. He had this knowledge of Him, a relationship with Him. He was connected to Him very well through his spirit. But his body, he could use as a tool. You know, he used it to walk around the earth and do things that he was supposed to do in his domain on earth. So his body's very important. But it had no sexuality until later, when God took Eve out of Adam. Adam was the first mankind. He wasn't a male. He was unisex, or no sex, but he was created in the image of God, in the likeness of God, well, image of God specifically, and God took part of him out of his body, and that was his side, and then formed Eve out of that. Now, when it says that God breathed into Adam, the Bible usually in English says the breath of life. Sometimes you got to look up the original languages on these things, because actually what it really said is the breath of lives, more than one. What were the lives that God breathed into that first man? Remember, not male, but mankind, the first being. Well, He breathed into it, the male and the female spirit. And when He took Eve from Adam, the spirit came with his side. He took the side of Adam out. So my point being is that this is humanity, are first of all a spirit. And they were given a body, but the body didn't have any sex. And the body did not dominate the spirit anyhow. But that spirit was the life, and it pulsed with life because it was connected with God. So when God breathed, when God spoke, when God did things, the spirit could pick up on it, and Adam and Eve knew God. So when Eve was created too, she had a relationship with God before she met Adam. So her body also, at that time when God created Eve and created Adam, they were sexual beings now. Adam being a male, Eve being female, sexual beings. And inside of them, again, was that same spirit. The spirit didn't change when they went from asexual to sexual. The spirit was the same, didn't move, didn't change. And it was, again, their guiding force. It was the power, the life inside of the body. And their mind is a tool for the earth and for just recording information. So now, when Adam met Eve, they met. That's the beginning of first marriage, then sexuality. And the sexuality was awesome. It's exquisite. I mean, God created it. He knows what He's doing. If you look scientifically at it, the way that it all works, it's amazing. But what you want to understand and what you need to know, again, I'm going to say it one more time, is that man was created, first of all, without a sex. He wasn't male or female, and without sexuality. But he was still a man. He was still mankind. He was made in the image of God, and he was breathed the breath into that being. That breath made him alive. And it had nothing to do with sexuality. So mankind doesn't need sexuality. It was given as an extra thing, as a gift, as a blessing to Adam and to Eve, and they can enjoy each other as long as they were first in the covenant of marriage, which was given to them first by God. He brought them together. They became one as a covenant marriage partner. And then, because that was protected within that, then they became one physically. That's what we call sexuality. Sexuality. But I want to talk to you today about sexuality versus the spirit. Because the spirit, again, didn't need it, didn't have it, and that's the source, the real source of life. Now, when Adam and Eve disobeyed God, and they both did for different reasons, someday I'll teach you about that, most likely, because I must. Because Adam didn't leave God. He didn't disobey God for the fruit. He wasn't deceived like Eve was. Eve was deceived by the serpent, and she ate the forbidden fruit. And because she didn't believe God, didn't trust God, but trusted the wrong voice, which was a lying serpent of the devil, really. I mean, it was an impersonation, this evil spirit. When she did that, just as God said would happen if she did disobey, and if she did disbelieve, her spirit died. Now, what does that mean? The source of life of the spirit of man that God put in mankind was God himself. He was like the burning inner light inside of their spirit, at all times burning. And they could see things, they could know things, they could travel here or there, they could do things by their spirit, because they had that life inside of them, which was God himself. But when they turned their back on that, which is God, when they turned their back on God, he couldn't force them to stay with him, because that wouldn't be love. First of all, there's no love there, and God doesn't do that. People sometimes do that. They manipulate, do all kinds of evil, but God doesn't. He gives the choice. He gave them the choice, and when they chose to leave God, that life inside of their spirit left, and so their spirit died. All of a sudden, they're alone without God. All of a sudden, it's them and the physical world. And that's what really when the beginning of survival of the fittest started. They turned away from God and their spirit died. Now, when God sent the Lord Jesus, and he was born of a virgin, that means he wasn't born of a male, meaning his physical dad who raised him, his name's Joseph, had never been together with his wife, Mary. And they were engaged, but they weren't married yet. And they never came together until the baby was born. And Mary didn't have any sexual union or relation, whatever, with anybody, but she had a baby. That's the Lord Jesus. He was a miracle baby. Now the spirit of mankind is passed down through the seed or the sperm that goes into the egg. The egg is provided by the mother. The seed is provided by the father. So you get your spirit from your father. The humans do, I should say. The point being is that when God gave Jesus to the world, he didn't have a spirit that came from a human.